So I was talking with Terry about a financial miracle that the Lord performed for me and my husband, and it was probably about 10 to 15 years ago. Bill and I had a stint of 10 years where we lived in California. No, I didn't want to move to California, but he wanted to, so I followed my husband and we lived there for 10 years. It was 2008 when the housing market crashed. We had a mortgage. One day my husband had a very good job, and the next day my husband didn't have a job. Everything just stopped. It was sad. You would see people with everything they owned in the back of their truck and a trailer, and they were headed out of town. I mean, it was pretty frightening to see all that happening. We had enough funds that we actually survived another 2 years, but we had fallen behind on our house payments. We were trying to put first things first. It's not that the house wasn't important, but in a way, it didn't come first for us. There were other things more important. And so we had fallen behind on our house. We didn't want to lose it. It was not the kind of thing that we did. We would always try to keep our contract and make it good. Even if we had to suffer through it, we would try to make good, unless we just couldn't. So it was during this time that Mansell's mother had passed. And she had left money to Mansell, and we had charge of it, but at the moment we just didn't feel free to use it. There's something kept hailing us back, and it was about $50,000 that we were in charge of. It wasn't a tremendous amount, but at that time it sure would have covered some house payments, right? And so we just didn't touch it, and we knew we had to make an accounting of that money when everything got straightened out legally. And but 2 years, and our house payments were way behind, and we were getting pretty nervous about it. And so we did we knew that she had left him a nice chunk of this $50,000. It was his. It just was a shame we couldn't touch it. And there it was, and we had control of it. But one day we decided to take $6,000 of his money and apply it to our mortgage. And hopefully we could save our house that way. So time went by, and we're making our house payments. And now we haven't really caught up totally. We went a long time without making any house payments. And it was a brutal time for everyone. People were losing houses left and right. So in the end, we were just hoping that the mortgage company would just sort of refi for us or something like that, rewrite the mortgage, and we would just go on. That was a joke. But they advertised that it was totally possible. Anyway, we were kind of hanging in there, hoping that would come to fruition. And one day a man called, and it was an attorney. And the attorney was ready to, close out her affairs, Mansell's mother's affairs. And so part of that is taking and writing out on a big piece of paper all the things, all the money that was spent from the money that she left. And so I did that, and then there was $6,000 that was like unaccounted for. And so I prayed about it, and I just had this peace. Just had a peace. We knew that she had left him about $15,000. She said, "This is yours. I want you to have it." But in the end, the state said, "No, we get it all." So we had really just used 6 of his 15. That's how it was in our mind, right? But to the attorney, they wanted the whole thing. They wanted the whole $50,000, including that 6. Well, I never would tell him where that 6 was. I said, the 6 is just not there. This is all I have left. There should have been, I think really what it was, should have been $56,000, and we had $50,000. I said, I'll write you a check out now for $50. Now, many people wouldn't have even done that. They would have followed long and hard, but I knew my mother-in-law, and I knew she would have wanted me to do that. And I wanted to do what she wanted me to do. And so he kept saying, well, ma'am, there's just no way to get out of this. It's $56,000. It's $56,000. You're going to have to write the state a check for $56,000. I said, well, I'm going to repeat it again. I could write you a check for $50,000. He goes, well, I don't know. Well, we ended that conversation. We had a couple of other conversations, but I just stuck to it. And the Lord just gave me a peace every time I stuck to it. I said, Lord, I know we didn't do everything just like by the state's book, but you know what was in his mother's heart. You know that she wanted him to have this. And so I didn't hear, well, the last time I talked with the attorney, he said, okay, I'm going to take this to the DA. I think it was the DA that was handling or something. He was somebody high up in the government, in the state government. And I said, well, okay. So we hung up. I didn't hear probably for a couple months. And I knew he was going to call. I just didn't know when. And so one day the phone rings, I pick it up, and it said attorney. And he goes, and I just can't tell you what incredible peace I had. Like, I just didn't have to say anything. I knew everything was just going to be handled. And he said, well, I'm calling to tell you that we're going to, the DA is going to accept your $50,000. And my heart just leaped. I never said a word. And I had no response for him. And he said, and then he just started talking, and he said, and I want you to know, I have never in my entire career of knowing this man ever seen him accept something like this. He goes, I don't know what he's thinking, but if you'll write a check for $50,000, we'll call this settled. And I said, thank you. And we hung up the phone. And I wrote a check for $50,000. And the state got their $50,000. That was the end of that. And all I can say is that you don't have to be, I know this for a fact, you don't have to be perfect in this walk. You don't have to be. We were trying to do what was right. We might not have been perfect at it in the eyes of the government, but we really weren't doing wrong morally either. And God knew. He knew. He gave me a peace through that. It was probably about 6 months where we went through that. It was a little agonizing, but then God would just give me peace. If we'll just trust him that God, I can't do anything about this. You know I can't do anything about it. You know I didn't mean wrong on this. I need you to take care of it. So many times we will if we just walk in his way. He knows it. He sees it. He knows everything about us. He knows every little problem we're having. He knows the quarter that we lost and where the quarter is. He knows that when I go to the store, he's going to have placed a $20 bill on that ground. He just knows. And he moved on the heart of those people who were in power that could have taken us down over that. And they ruled in our favor. And there you can read in the Old Testament where it talks about God's people spoiling the enemy. He allows us to do that. Are we perfect? No, he doesn't say, I need you to get perfect, and then when you get there, I'm going to let you go up there and spoil the enemy. He doesn't say that at all. He says he will allow us to spoil the enemy. Why? Because we're his chosen ones. Why? Because he called us and we answered. And we said, yes, we're going to walk with you. He says, good, I'm going to take you now, and you're going to spoil the enemy. Trust in that.